Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Two Tired Parents podcast. I'm Miles Weber.
I'm Heather Weber.
As always, we are tired, but we are here.
We are.
And we are here with a very special guest today.
Yeah.
We've known him for, I've known him for, it's got to be close to 18 years because I remember him from the Pepperbellies days.
Really?
Yes. Oh, yes. I knew Morty from very, very long ago. I don't know if you ever did. You might have. And just not registered back then. You know, everything gets kind of blurry. But yes, you're our guest that we have today. Words are hard. Our guest that we have today is a good friend of mine. Known him for many, many years as a stand-up comedian, but he is also, as by trade during the day, a mortician. And he is a retired mortician. Yes, he's a retired mortician, and he has gained quite the following on social media for being a mortician and answering questions about being a mortician. We want to talk to him today
acting and comedy.
About acting, comedy, all the things. He is a quadruple threat. What he does. I mean, you know all the personal things. I know him to be the person, and I forget how cool my friends are when we have to rattle off all of their successions. But please welcome Morty Stein, everybody. Hello, Morty.
Hey, how are you guys? Long time.
We're doing good. Good to see you. Reporting from looking like Andy's room from Toy Story in there. I don't know why. Right. Maybe it's the blue paint that I'm just like, it kind of looks like clouds, right?
I think the blue paint, the blue trim we've got here in my little hollow office here.
Yeah.
I love
it.
Yeah.
I want to put the clouds up there now. I think that would look cool.
Oh yeah, the clouds would look cool. We'll get you some cloud decals and things like that to put on the wall. You're gonna be sitting pretty.
Nice.
So yeah, man, walk us through the moment in your life where one decides to become a mortician. Is this young? Are you a kid thinking about being a mortician? Like, is this an adult? Like, you stumble into it? Walk people through. How does this happen?
This is something, honestly, I wanted to do since I was about 7 years old. I know a lot of people that get into this business kind of do it a little bit later in life, but I kind of had a life-changing experience as a kid that kind of stuck with me all these years. And growing up, it's something that's always kind of been in the back of my mind. And when I got older and decided, okay, I need to settle down, get a career, what's the one thing that I've always really wanted to do? And that was to be a licensed funeral director, an embalmer, or a mortician.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
So cool. Is there, I guess when you start to decide that's what you want to do, is there an internship process, or do they just throw you into it? Like, all right, here you go.
There's a little bit of both. In California, it's called a dual license state. So you have to have a license to be a funeral director, and you also have to have a separate license to be an embalmer. So to be an embalmer, you have to go to mortuary school. Yes, there is a school for this where they teach you embalming, restorations, cosmetics, restoration, repair, everything about the human body and anatomy in preparations for services, how to prepare the body. You have to go to school for that. It's a 2-year program. Once you graduate from the 2-year program, you have to do a 2-year apprenticeship where you have to embalm and take care of 200 bodies. And my dog's howling in the background. But yeah, you have to do an apprenticeship for this. And once the apprenticeship is done, you take your state boards and you get your license to be an embalmer. The funeral director, you don't really need the schooling to do that, but you have to have 60 college units or an AA degree to be a licensed funeral director. So I went to school to do all of that.
Did you find, because I feel like if I were running one of these classes, I would just automatically bring a body out sooner than later just to see who could actually handle it.
To see who's down.
I don't want to waste anybody's time.
That's true.
So it's if you can't do this, at least you know now and not hours in. Is that something that happened, or am I just messed up?
No, that's totally, you hit the nail on the head. And that reminded me of a great story, and I'm glad you said that. So
Okay.
when I was going to school to be a funeral director and an embalmer, there are certain required classes that you have to take in the program. One of the first classes you have to take is called Introduction to Funeral Directing, or Funeral Directing 101, which is kind of the history of funeral directing. So when I signed up for the class, there was 28 desks in the room, but 70 people showed up to try to get on a wait list to get into the class. The
Wow.
teacher, the professor said, I am going to add everybody. So if you don't have a desk assigned to you right now, grab a pillow, grab something, sit on the floor, and don't worry, because by the end of this program, not all of you are going to make it. So there was like over 70 people in the class, 28 desks. Week number 3 was the funeral home tour. So the first couple of weeks were lecture, and then the third week he took us on a tour of a funeral home. And so I had already been working as an apprentice, so I've been around it. I've already have a job. I was in working at a funeral home. And so after the tour, the next week, the class went from 70 to about 40. So we had that many people drop just
Substantial.
after going through the funeral home tour. The class was 16 weeks. And at the end of 16 weeks, from the 70 that started, there was 6 of us taking the
See?
final.
Yeah.
6.
You gotta know if you can, for something
6.
like that, you don't want to find
Yeah.
out in the real deal.
Oh, no, you
So
can't. You cannot
Yeah,
find
people
out in
found
the
out.
field.
People found out really fast this was not what they thought it was going to be, and this is not what they want to do.
What do you think it's going to be? I don't understand. I understand a lot of things in life where you get mismatched, right? Like,
So on the first day, when there's 70 of us there, Miles, he goes around the class and he says, I want you to state your name, and why you want to do this. And
yeah.
so it came around to me, and I said, my name is Morty, and I wanted to do this for a really long time. I'm already in the field. I'm working as an apprentice at a funeral home right now. But a lot of the people that were in the class were like cosmetologists and estheticians that got asked by family friends, hey, mom passed away, can you come in and do their hair and makeup for the funeral? So a lot of these cosmetologists and estheticians came in and did it and thought, okay, they did a great job, they looked beautiful, the service was great, the family was happy. They thought, well, I could do this, I can make a lot of money and be the embalmer to the stars. Well, once they got through the funeral home tour and they went through the preparation area, they thought, oh, no way. There's no way I can do this.
And I don't know. I think the idea of, how you're really good at doing hair and makeup for people that are alive. What if you did it when they're dead? Like,
I mean, that doesn't say anything good for, I think, the skills of the cosmetologist. I mean, like, wouldn't you want, like, to make somebody look in such a way that they look in the mirror and get happy and then go out that way and show the world? It's just like the person's got to be dead for you to be able to make this work.
well, I'd also imagine, like, again, I don't know anything about the field, just the body, that makeup would absorb and go on differently on somebody that had blood flow to it as opposed to not. But that's just my guess.
It is. And we use a special type of mortuary cosmetic because normal makeup for normal human beings adhere to a warm tone and texture of the facial structure.
Mm-hmm.
When you pass away and you die, there's no blood flow, there's no electrical activity, there's nothing to keep the body warm, so the body actually cools down. So we use a special type of cosmetic that adheres to a person who has a cooler temperature
Yeah.
on their face.
That makes sense. So yeah, I just feel like it seems like the same, but kind of a different art. I'd feel like, yeah.
It is. Basically we have used some kind of forms of like Mac Cosmetics and some other name brand cosmetics, but the basic foundations are a special textured cosmetic to adhere to the human face.
Wow. I have so many questions just on this, but I know
just on that, yeah. But we're gonna keep it rolling, man. But I mean, like, you probably get like requests from families and everything beforehand. Like, what's the most unhinged request that a family's ever made before a ceremony to you or anything, or does that come across you?
We've had quite a few different kind of weird requests from families. We've had a family that once had their loved one was a nudist and wanted to have a completely nude funeral with the deceased not being dressed, and everybody there was clothing optional service. That was kind of different.
Did you guys do it?
Yeah, could that happen?
It happened.
Wow.
I mean, and I think there were maybe like 20 people at the service, and I think maybe 3 of them came clothing optional.
Okay, so 3 of them were nude?
3, yeah. Plus
that's weird to me. Only 3 out of 20 seems like not enough. Those 3 were bold. They were like, this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. To look at the numbers, be like 17 other people decided to opt out of this. And y'all were like, this is what so that's some confidence right there.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And the people that worked at the funeral home, we were highly disappointed.
So is everyone else I've talked to.
People would be like fighting for that shift. Like, no, I want to work.
No, everyone I've talked to comics. I've talked to comics who've done like shows for nudists, and I've also talked to comics who have done like nudist cruises because it's a thing. Yeah, there are nudist cruises that they have specialty once or twice a year, and so those offers come up. And I've talked to the comics. I've only heard like people are like, oh yeah, everybody who wants to be a nudist has no right to be a nudist. Like it's one of the more disappointing things you're ever gonna see. Like it's not the world, the finest off of Maxim's Hot 100 or whatever it is now. Like, yeah, it's not that at all. It's just people who, for whatever reason, just still like the babies who used to always just take their clothes off and wouldn't put them on and just run away from you. They grew up to be nudists. And when you don't wear clothes that often, gravity takes control eventually and sooner than you would think.
I mean, in this economy, it's pretty appealing right now to
cheap.
Clothes.
My thought, it was the first thought I had when he said it. When he was just like, oh yeah, they wanted the body to be nude. I'm like, it's a good way to save money on clothes. Because you gotta get the nice clothes, be like, put them in these clothes. Nah, they were a nudist. Yeah. Now we're gonna try and talk as many of these 20 people into showing up nude just to keep the ruse going. Like, it's probably the 3 they had to pay. Just like, listen, we told them this so we could save some money. It's cheaper to pay you to be nude for the day than it is to put a suit on Dad. Can we just do this instead? They're like, fine. I'll show up to the church
the clothing
nude.
Thing, I think, like, what families put pressure on for, like, what they should be wearing. I'm just like, don't put a bra or anything on me. Like, just give me a big T-shirt and call it a day.
Right.
Like,
let gravity take control. I tell people just put me in a Folgers tin and go out Lebowski style.
Then I'd have to go buy Folgers. We don't drink Folgers.
I mean, find a receptacle then, all right? Get the Trader Joe's tin. Whatever it is that you've got that you keep the coffee in, put me in that.
The Folgers tins has been a request that we've had.
Yes.
A couple of times. Some of the other strange requests we've had, people wanted to be buried with their pets, their cremated remains of their pet urns, and so we've accommodated that. We've had people that we had one person that wanted to be buried with her sex toys, with her vibrators. She had a collection of vibrators, and so we actually put those in the casket with her. It was in her pre-need. She had planned that out before she died. She knew what she wanted.
Amazing. I mean, what are you going to do with them? Like, give them to somebody? You might as well just get buried.
Pass them down to the next generation.
Right.
Very invested in the burial for her casket. just because upon lifting, you're going to bump something. And so, as soon as we get down into the ground with that casket, you're just going to hear blah, 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 blah.
The battery can't last forever.
It can't last forever, but it'll last in that moment. Like if there's a nudge, like I would right in there, turn them on before you put me in the ground. So that way it's just humming and earthworms are going to be in the ground. Like, what the hell is going on? So, fascinating. We could talk to you about mortician stuff all day.
We could.
But at what point into that life are you then like, what happens that you're like, I should do stand up now? Like, well, how do we get there? Because it seems like a left turn on paper.
So for many, many years when I first started in the business, I was working for other funeral homes, corporately owned funeral homes. In 2009, the economy tanked. People were losing their jobs. People were losing their homes. People were losing their retirements. And it affected a lot of industries, and it affected ours too. People that were losing their money and losing their homes couldn't afford these big, huge, elaborate funerals anymore. So they were going to like low cost cremations. They were going to like direct burials, which were just simple burials, no preparation, no funeral service, just place them in the casket, take them to the cemetery, and burial, no service or anything. So people like us that were like duly licensed, that were funeral directors and embalmers, since they weren't doing these big high ticket funerals anymore, we got let go. They cut back on us, and I actually got laid off and was unemployed for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Because I couldn't find a job. Funeral homes, when they started rehiring, were hiring fresh mortuary school graduates at minimum wage. And people like me that commanded a much higher rate, they couldn't afford or didn't want to pay me for that. So I actually ended up cashing out 401ks, my savings, and opening up my own funeral home. And I was just going to kind of focus on doing like cremations and low cost burials, because that's where kind of everything was heading at the time. So I opened my own funeral home, and I was really active in our community. We opened up in Auburn, and originally in Rockland, and then we moved to Auburn. And so I was real active with the Chamber of Commerce, and really big on networking to get our name out there, let people know how we were different, what we were doing, and that we were new to the community. And so people eventually started asking me to speak at like church groups, civic organizations, Rotary, Kiwanis, Seroptimus, and groups like that. So I started developing a lecture, kind of lecture like on pre-planning benefits, benefits for funeral services if you're a veteran, what's available to you. And so I started speaking at all these different events. When I first started, a lot of people were kind of afraid to go to the talk, because they thought, okay, well, here's a funeral director. It's just going to be doom and gloom. He's just going to be talking about death and burials and funerals. And I kind of got that. I kind of understood. So I would show up and I'd be dressed casually. I wouldn't wear a suit and tie, just wear like a button down and a blazer, just to kind of be one of the people. And I would talk to them, but I'd also kind of make a couple of little jokes here and there, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit and let people think, oh, he's kind of a normal guy. He's funny. Maybe I'll listen to what he has to say. And so I started developing different talks. And one of the talks that I developed was called Secrets Revealed, the 5 things funeral directors won't tell you. And so I had a whole lecture series just basically on that. And I would get asked from tons of people from all over, we want you to speak on this. It's very entertaining. It's fascinating. We want you to talk about this. Because normally when they book me, I send them a list. Here's some topics, just pick one. But they're always, oh no, the 5 secrets. We really want that. And I tell stories and I tell jokes. And I talk about the 5 things funeral directors won't tell you. And it just got like hugely popular. But sometimes when I get booked, I'll either get like sometimes if I'm lucky, I'll get to do it in like 45 minutes, but sometimes they give me like 10 minutes. And so I have to kind of condense it down and just bullet point it. So at one point, I thought, well, maybe I should write a book and kind of elaborate on the stories. And that way, maybe after sometimes if I do like a 5, 10 minute, 20-minute thing and I can't get to everything, maybe I can sell the book, kind of like my merch a little bit, and kind of explain to everything. So as I'm writing the book and I'm telling the stories and writing the stories, some of these were actually quite funny because there's a lot of really funny things that have happened to me over all these years. And so I was really good friends with a guy named Paul who ran a comedy club in Rockland. And so I called him and said, do you have like an open mic night where I can come and read these stories? And he goes, we don't really have an open mic night, but we do have a class called Stand Up 101, which is basically there's a comedian in town that's been doing it for like 20 years that teaches basic comedy 101. He goes, but honestly, most of the people that take this class are people like you, people that do like Toastmasters. They're public speakers and they just want to interject humor in their talks. He goes, I think that would be perfect for you. So I signed up for the class. And it was like 3 weekends. The first 2 weekends, the comedian helps you with write your material, how to do stage presence, etiquette on stage, what to do, what not to do, what not to say, what to say, and how to relate to your audience. And then the third weekend, you invite all your family and friends, and you do your 5 minutes. Most of the people in the class were just like me, but there was like 3 or 4 people that wanted to be aspiring stand-up comedians. And then after the class, we did the performance, and the performance was great. It was a lot of fun. But afterwards, some of them were like, hey, we're going to start going to open mics. Do you want to go with us? And I went, nah, I don't really want to do this. This is not something that I aspire to do. I don't want to be a comedian. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And they said, okay. So every couple of weeks, they would call me up and go, hey, we're still going to all these open mics. There's a bunch of different ones starting up. Come with us. Do your stuff. You should do your material. And I'm like, this isn't for me. I don't want to be a comedian. I'm a mortician. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And then after a couple of weeks, I kind of got to thinking, I wonder how they're doing in their comedy. So I showed up at one of their open mics and they went up there and they did pretty good. But there was a lot of comedians that I was sitting in the audience going, I'm funnier than that. I could actually do that. I think I could do this. And so I went to the open mic the following week and I signed up and I went up and I totally, no pun intended, killed on stage. It was so much fun and I did really well. So I signed up for another open mic the following week and I went to the second open mic at a different place and completely bombed my ass off. And I thought, okay, even though I bombed, I could do this. And so I just kept going to open mics and it kind of just like snowballed from there. People were putting me on their shows because I was different from all the other comedians. I was older. I had a different point of view, a different perspective, and I had a topic nobody else was talking about.
That's amazing. And like, I think so cool early on, you already understood like how to read a room and like being able to tighten what needs to be tightened or like we can expand on it. And I think that's so much that people take years of doing stand-up comedy to learn. And so to go in already having that is huge.
Massive. Absolutely. And also cool to look at the hindsight of like where seeing how hard times in the economy affects everything.
Right.
Like, yeah, man, the heels of the financial crisis, it's something you don't even think about. Like, oh yeah, funeral directors. I mean, like, yeah, what's going on with y'all? And so out of that, you kind of being forced to do your own thing really set you down a path that eventually led you to like stand up and led us to meeting each other, and having this conversation today. So, I mean, it's very cool to look at like the whole scope of how it all went down, but like equally cool that that's how you got there, man. That's really fantastic. But as far as like with your kids though, if we could pivot into parenting.
That was my next question.
Right? So like, what do you tell your kids like when they start getting to the age of what does dad do for work? What does mom do for work? Did you ever go talk
to the school?
I mean, yeah. What do you tell your kids? Did you ever go talk to the school and do a career day? Like, I mean, like, how do you explain to a child what it is that you do? And do you have to then have like the death talk at that point? Because that's been something that we've been like skating around with Robin for a little while right now. We're like, what do we say? Like, so how did you navigate that, man?
So in the beginning, when I first told Jared, when he asked what I really do, and I told him, he was just like, "Oh, that's cool, that's cool." And as far as like career day, they actually in his middle school, they had job shadowing. So they invited different types of businesses to go to the school, and the kids would actually interview for a one-day job. And so when I showed up with my funeral home, it was like the most popular business there. Everybody wanted to come spend the day with me because a lot of the students and the parents already knew me, but Jared and his friends were all kind of fascinated with this, and they all wanted to do it. So we actually had several students from his school come spend a day at the funeral home and get a whole behind the scenes look of what really goes on and what it's really all about.
Like everything? They saw everything? Or did you guys like...
They saw everything. We even, the funeral home that I was at had an upstairs loft that you could oversee. So they all went up there and watched a funeral. They got a tour of the embalming room, so they didn't get to see any bodies. We wouldn't let them see that, okay. But they got to see the room where we do all the preparation, and they got to see the big, huge walk-in refrigerator door where we stored all the bodies, but they couldn't go in. We wouldn't allow them to go in, obviously.
That makes sense. I feel like, I don't know, I remember like in school before sex ed, your parents had to sign off on something.
100%.
I'm like, I feel like there'd be something for this where it's like, okay, are you okay with your kids going and seeing all this stuff and having to, be cool with that?
Yeah, there was a liability waiver, but it was all spelled out that they weren't going to see any bodies. Yeah. They would attend a funeral, but it would be a closed casket service. They'd be upstairs. They wouldn't be in the congregation with everybody.
That makes sense. When you go to funerals, do you kind of judge, like, silently?
100%. I do. I totally judge and say, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. Why aren't they doing this? How come the greens aren't laid out this way? How come the tent's over on the wrong side of the grave? Why are they opening it this way?" So sometimes my wife has to put her hand over my mouth,
Today's podcast is sponsored by The Village, and it's kind of insane that this hasn't been a thing sooner. The short version of how this app works is basically it finds the people around you who you'd actually want to be friends with and puts you in a small group of them, so you have to actually meet in real life. It's not a dating app. It's not a hobby group. It's the people you'd actually call, the ones who'd show up. They just launched in San Diego. The founders are personally handpicking the first 50 people. Personally handpicking themselves, y'all. Come on, get on this. If you comment San Diego on their Instagram, they send you the link. Thevillageapp.com, or just find @StartYourVillage and comment San Diego. 50 spots. That's it.
When we had the Tourette's on, they were like talking about judging people running in their neighborhood and everything. And I'm like, well, what's the judging in this?
Oh my God. Yeah. Where's the judgment that you can cast on that? Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Every funeral he goes to, he's just like, these amateurs, what are we doing? Did you even care about this person? Oh God. How do you think that being a mortician has affected you? Did it affect how you parented at all? Like, were there some things about being a mortician that you were able to drag and drop into parenting and you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting this to be beneficial here, but here we are and it worked?
One of the things that me personally really benefited from all the years that I did this was to live life every day because it could be your last. And that's the kind of the philosophy that I live by even today. And I instilled that in our son, just, whatever you want to do in life, do it. Don't don't hold back. If you want to do something, just dive in, both feet in the pool, get in there and do it. Don't hold back, because, you don't want to regret it, because you may not get a second chance to do it. And that's the way I live my life. And that's the way I tell people, tomorrow's not promised. Do it today.
Well, and I'd also imagine with all of the funerals you've probably overheard and the speeches that have been given at those, there's probably a lot of you hearing of, you wish people had done this, or they wish they would have said this to that person. And so I think that is, in a lot of ways, can be so beneficial for whoever's working there, because it does put a lot of things into perspective to you, like you're saying, of, these things aren't promised, and you're not always going to get that moment to do this or tell that person that thing.
Right. There was a guy that I knew, and I'd known him for a few years, and he passed away. And we went to his funeral, a bunch of friends of ours. We went to his funeral, and I wasn't really judging, I was a little bit judging the service. But when it came down for his eulogy, they came up and they talked about all these things that he had done in his life. And we just kind of looked at each other and went, man, compared to Jim, we've done nothing in our life. He's done everything. And it was just kind of like, that was kind of like the turning point for me. It was like, I need to just kind of put the business aside and do things that I want to do, and not be so sheltered, and live life, like there's no tomorrow. Because, there may not be. You don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. And like, when all you're doing is just work, and that's all you're focused on, you're missing out on so many different aspects. And
right.
With how I feel like things are right now, it's designed that, you retire when you're 65 or 70, maybe, but who knows where your body's at by that point to get and do those things. So being able to have that perspective shift, I think, is huge.
Right. When I was growing up, my dad was a doctor. He had his own practice. He was gone a lot. I remember waking up in the middle of the night as a little kid to go to the bathroom, and he'd be on the phone. And he was always, in the morning, he'd get up, have breakfast, go to the hospital to do his rounds. He'd work all day in his office seeing patients. On the way home, he'd stop at the hospital and check on his patients in the hospital, come home, have dinner, the phone would ring. But I also remember he never missed a Little League game, and he never missed a swim meet or any activity me or my brothers and sisters were involved in. And when Jared was getting involved in drama and some of the things that he was involved with, I said the same thing. And it got to a point where I was totally consumed with this business. My philosophy originally was, families come first. This is the worst day of their lives. I have to help them. But it got to a point to where I need to take care of me mentally first, and I need to be there for my children. My dad, as busy as he was there for me and my brothers and sisters. I'm going to be there for him. Mm-hmm. And I did. I made the time to be a involved parent. Both my wife and I did. We never missed anything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think that speaks volumes for your dad, but also speaks volumes of how much you retained of that. Like, I remember seeing him working all the time, but I also remember this point. And I think that's where like him being at the games or wherever he was made it that much more valuable, because how busy he was. And we were actually talking about this recently of like, how we came up with the name of this podcast. Like, parents are tired. Everybody's tired, but you can't keep using that as a cop-out to not be a present parent.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's tired. You don't have to go far to find somebody that's tired, but eventually that's going to become a cop-out, and you have too many of those years using that as a cop-out, and you're not going to get those years back.
I mean, I'd rather be sleepy with a smile on my face, man. Like, because there's so much of just like not wanting to miss everything. Because that's where I'm constantly at, is like looking at my calendar and trying to be aware of just like, okay, like what's too many bookings, what's not too many bookings. You run the risk of missing out on some of the important things. And so I've been able to make like all of Robin's shows that he's done for dance and everything, but knowing that, our kids are going to be very active in just doing stuff because we're not one to shy away from, like, if they're like, oh, I like that thing. It's like, if you want to do that, go ahead and do it as long as it makes you happy, man. Like, as long as it's serving a purpose in your life. But that does mean, like, you're creating the space to be like, how involved can I actually be? Mm-hmm. So being intentional, like, it's good to hear that you had a point where you were like, no, I gotta, like, it can't just be everybody else's family first. It has to be my family first. And what does that actually look like? Mm-hmm. So I think that's
it did, and it affected Jared too, because he knew what I did, and he thought it was cool what I did. And actually, when he was in high school and junior college, he worked at the funeral home. He worked with us. He was in the prep room dressing bodies with me side by side and helping out on funerals. And when Deborah retired, she really wasn't too cool with handling the bodies, but she filed death certificates and she went to the crematory and picked up urns. So it was kind of a whole family business, literally, with everybody involved for a while.
That's so cool. How did your son take it when you started doing comedy more, and then now you've been doing more acting things? So what has been his take on those?
He's gone to a few comedy shows. He's my style. I work clean. I'm a little bit different and stuff, but he loves comedy, and he loves some of the same comedians that I do. He thought it was cool that I was doing, but it was like it was like no big deal for him. It wasn't something that he was bragging about to all of his friends, but he thought it was cool. He was proud of what I was doing, and he's gone to a lot of my comedy shows, and especially the shows where I'm doing like headlining sets where stories about him are included in the mix. Mm-hmm. And he's totally cool with it. There's a couple of stories that I was writing, expanding my set, and I would ask him, "Hey, remember this? Are you okay if I talk about this and say this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. That's cool. I don't care."
And that's nice that you ask, though. That's important. So yeah, especially now that like he's older, so like him being able to give the A-OK on it is nice.
Yeah,
exactly. And when I first started doing comedy, most of the first 5 minutes was all about death and funerals in my life as a funeral director. But as I started doing more comedy and writing more, I started getting a little bit more vulnerable, more personal, adding my family into it. But I made them a promise. I said, I would never say anything about them that would embarrass them or put them on the spot or make them look bad. I would always make them the hero of the story where they're kind of putting me down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely something I always try and consider too, is what light I'm painting the kids in when I'm talking about them on stage. Because, but also we've had the conversation about what we do and don't want them in anything as far as what gets posted on social media.
Yeah, we've been like, he's been in some things and selective.
Yeah.
And, we're trying, it's a weird concept to explain social media and the internet to a 4-year-old.
Very difficult.
But I've been trying to like get him to but you're never going to understand it fully at 4. And he's asking to be in everything, but there's still the part that it's like, well, no, we're the parent and we still need to set the rules and the boundaries. Because you just don't know what's on the other side. And so it's that hard thing, because if our kid could, he'd be in front of a camera 24/7. Yeah. But would he want that when he's 13? I don't know. So
exactly. So yeah, that's the thing. It's just making sure whatever you've got out there isn't going to be, because there's also the school aspect. If he's at school, other kids are going to see stuff that happens, and then it's a matter of like, what involves them? Can they get made fun of for this in a certain way that is going to be hard for them to come back about? Mm-hmm. Or even like, how am I existing? Like, what's the bits that I'm doing now? And do I want that to have to be a conversation at the PTA meetings later on? So it's just trying to be very aware of like, all right, like what is okay, what's not okay.
Yeah. Well, and you don't get to pick and choose what bits stick with people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's also the hard part is like you might say something in passing and not realize like how much. I remember when you were doing the bit about me weighing my food.
Yeah.
And it got to a point that he had to stop doing it, at least when I was there, because people would come up and grab my plate of food and ask me if I knew how much it weighed.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't just touch my food. So yeah, he just had to stop doing it. So people would leave me alone.
Wow.
And other bits about her being strong and like certain things like that. It got to be situational when she's there too, because then people will like go up and they'll like grab her arms and like have her flex and stuff like that. And it's like, don't just start touching people. What's wrong with you? So I mean, you really got to consider a lot of like everybody, like you said, considering the family. And what light they're painted in, what type of situations is this going to create for you that might be uncomfortable that you don't want to be in and I don't want to see you in. You know, there's a lot of thought now that goes to it, which I think is very intentional. But like on the subject of like making sure that your means of like speaking to your family and things like that cover the hard grounds. I know we talked about like you telling your son about being a mortician and everything like that. Like, how did you talk to your kid about the subject of death when they're younger? Because I think that's something that we have been like, what do we say? Like, I mean, do you keep it real simple when they're real young and just wait for that to kind of like grow into things as they get older? Like, how do you navigate that? Because you're around it all day. Well, you were around it all day. So in what way did you handle that?
We talked a little bit about it, but we kind of also let him form his own opinions about it. Growing up when my dad was alive, when our son was a baby, I mean, we went to church with my dad, because he wasn't able to drive anymore. So we'd pick him up and take him to church. So we've always had kind of a religious background, and he's always been kind of religious growing up. So he knew about the Bible, about death and life, and the afterlife and what the Bible teaches us about it. But we also made him, look into forming his own opinion. But we also wanted to make it to where it wasn't a scary thing, and it wasn't something that I was, terrified about. Like for me personally, I'm not afraid to die. When my time comes, I'm totally at peace with it. I'm okay with it. I'm not afraid to die. A little afraid of the process of dying, but as far as of dying, I'm not afraid of it, and I don't think anybody in our family is either. Just because we've had the conversations about it, how we're not afraid, and that how we embrace life, and it's death and taxes. It's something that's going to happen to all of us.
I mean, just keep filing your extensions.
That too.
I love that he grew up still religious, but you wanted him to form his own opinions, because I think that's no matter what way you believe in things, like you forcing it on your kid, I think is the wrong way to do it, because they'll kind of fight back over time. And so I think like raising him in the church, but like, hey, wait, what do you want to learn about or read about, or I think that's huge for that.
I think that's the biggest thing that we're concerned about too, is once it crosses into but then what happens? And we're just like, okay, well, I mean, like, how do we have this conversation gingerly? But I think that also comes from like situation, like we both had private schooling in our background. And that is very much so like religion is just kind of forced upon you in a way. And just knowing how impressionable, I mean, I know how impressionable I was. I mean, like most of why I was in like the Christian Leadership Council Committee, whatever it was because I could play band and I played drums. And so I could get out of class, didn't have to go to math class every other Thursday because I could get into play drums in the band, right? So I was like, this is great. I get to play drums. I don't have to go to math. I love this. This is amazing. God is good, whatever. So having like that though, like kind of forced upon you, that's where we want to just do what we can to make sure that it's just like, well, here it all is. So what do you think? What feels right for you? But I mean, the big thing just being like, just whatever you pick, don't judge other people for who they love or what they're doing on their own accord. As long as they're not hurting themselves or anybody else, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going anywhere for just existing or like being of a certain orientation of who you love in this life. And then also just like I get weird about like the separation of just like, well, churches being like, well, it's you and then the church and then there's God up there. And I'm just like, I think it's more of like it's all within us. It's what binds us together. It's everything. Like, we are all kind of what the Beatles say. I am you and we are all together. Right. I mean, so we're all just kind of like extensions of the same being in the same way that your fingers are still a part of you, but you can see them. They're over there. That's more like the broad scope of things, but I'd love to just lay things out to them and just be like, here, like, we don't really want to put you in a situation where you're being force fed any one thing. Whatever makes you happy, that's what you should, whatever resonates with you, that's what you should believe in. And that's what we believe in. And so, I think that's where we're just like, is it too young to have this conversation? And I think
at least for me, because in the past few years, he said like he's seen my grandfather who passed away when I was 10. He's talked to him. And so Robin's like mentioned seeing people that he's never met and like talking to them. And so it's that interesting line to navigate of we don't know what happens after we die, and saying that this person died, but our son believes he's talked to him. It puts that weird like blend of things together, trying to navigate of like.
There's a lot we chalk up to tall tales in kids, and I think there's probably a blurry line there in the middle somewhere where I'm just like, yeah, maybe some of this stuff, but this stuff over here, like, it's a little weird that they're bringing this stuff up, and you just want to write it off real quick because it makes you more comfortable. So there is that line.
I agree. I mean, even like the religious aspect of it, when he got a little bit older, some of his friends were involved in church. And so he joined youth groups and he was a musician. He started learning how to play guitar, and he played in the worship band, and he was kind of around it, but we kind of also taught him, this is what I believe. This is what Mom believes, but form your own opinion.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question, and I know like it skews line of woo-woo-ness. But when it comes to when you were like working in the funeral home and the place with everything, could you ever pick up on different energies of things going on? Because so much of that is different bodies coming in there, if that question made sense.
Kind of supernatural things?
Yeah, supernatural or even, just like energies at all.
Yeah, because I've had some weird things happen when I was there. I remember once I was working at a funeral home. This was before I started my own, and we had an evening visitation. And after the visitation, everybody had left. I went in and I closed the casket, locked the casket, was walking around locking everything. And I always go through the funeral home, check the bathrooms, check all the viewing rooms, and make sure that there's nobody still there. And I always do it a couple of times. And so I made sure everything was closed up, locked up, everybody was gone, went out to the parking lot. The only car that was there was my car. So I knew I was the only one there. Went into the office and was getting some paperwork ready for the next day. And I just kept hearing footsteps coming down the hallway. And I thought, okay, maybe I didn't lock the door. Somebody came back in, and I walked around and there was nobody there. Nobody there. And so I walked around some more, and I went back to the office, and then I heard the footsteps again, and they were like from the hallway right where my office is. So I just kind of turned down the hallway and didn't see a thing. Man. Didn't see a thing.
Were you spooked, or were you like, yeah, that's a thing?
At first I was kind of spooked, but then I kind of thought, okay, well, I kind of believe in ghosts a little bit, and I do believe that when you pass away, you do hang around for a while. So that's what I kind of chalked it up to. And I still believe that today.
Same.
Yeah. We think you kind of kick around for a little bit. You do the hits, it's just like, oh, well, who's mourning me? Oh, my funeral. Can't miss that. Got to be there for that. See what happens, right?
No, I can't wait to go to mine.
Exactly. See?
With all of your judginess on it, have you told your family, so I want this song and these flowers or no flowers? Like,
right. So, you know, several years ago I got sick, and then my wife got sick a few years ago, and so right before we ended up selling our funeral home, we actually did our pre-arrangements. We made all of our funeral plans ahead of time. And so we know if something should happen to her or something should happen to me, everything's all planned out. Everything's already paid for. So everything just in the pre-arrangement just has to be executed. Mine is very extensive. I got specific songs I want. I want specific songs played at certain times. I want when they wheel, I want to be cremated, so when they bring my urn down the aisle to where they're going to have the service, I want walk-up music.
Is it going to be the Undertaker's theme song?
No, probably not. But I love that you've got music cues. Oh my God, this is great.
I got music cues, and I know 45 minutes before the funeral starts, I want Pink Floyd's "Dark Side of the Moon" played, because that whole album, 44 minutes and 42 seconds.
Oh man, you've even got a time limit. You're doing a headlining set for your funeral. Yeah. You're just like,
I love that. Are there foods you want there?
I mean, well, yeah, I'm sure there's everything he wants, all that, but I just want to show appreciation to you for putting a cap on this thing, because we've been to some funeral service where I'm just like, feels like we've got like 2 or 3 acts into this thing. Like, I mean, like there needs to be an intermission between like this entire service. This is a lot.
Yeah.
So I commend you for being like 44 minutes and 42 seconds.
Well, no, that's before it starts. He wants that album played up until it starts.
Oh, okay. So we've got that. It's like that's your doors open.
People are coming in. The album's going to be played, and the funeral will start. It's really simple. I don't want a whole bunch of speakers. You know, just come up. These are some of the scriptures I want read. This is what I want you to say. Amen. Let's go. Get out of here and let's party.
I love it. I love it.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic. Oh my God.
But also good on you for, like, I don't know, with how much I've had to deal with family stuff over the years. I'm like, oh, like, I don't want anybody to die. But in the event that it happens, it's nice that there's, you know,
it's a plan
laid out, and there's a plan. And because it's hard. Like, if you don't know how things work, like to take care of things after somebody passes, it's a lot of work. And so anything that isn't there, and so that way you can mourn the person. That's the other thing. When you're so busy of trying to take care of the nuances and logistics of things, it takes away from the mourning process.
It does. Yeah, you want to be able to be given the space in order to grieve. I think is very, very important. Morty, before we go, any parenting advice to some parents who are in the trenches of parenting possibly multiple children? Any advice for parents out there?
I'm not the expert, but the biggest piece of advice I will give you and give everybody is be present. Be involved in your kid's life, no matter what's going on, no matter what you're doing. If they have a recital or a play or something going on at their school, t-ball, sports, anything, be there. You don't have, just take the time and just be present in their lives. Just show up and don't miss anything. They're more important than anything else.
Facts. We love it. Well, Morty, thank you so much for being here today. Why don't you let people know where they could follow you on social media and all that stuff, how they can find you, and anything you want to promote?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Oh Lordy, It's Morty, or Morty Stein at Instagram. Follow me on TikTok. I have a TikTok channel called Funeral Home Confessions, 200,000 followers, where I talk about life, death, and what really goes on behind the doors of a funeral home. Those are the best ways to check me out. Follow my social media to see where I'm doing stand-up, and check it out.
I know earlier you said you wanted to write a book. Did you end up writing a book, or did it all just turn into bits?
I wrote the book. I mean, I wrote like the first draft of it, but I didn't really do anything with it. So maybe at some point I'll retrieve it from my laptop and kind of finish it. It's something I've always wanted to do. Being an author, writing a book is on my bucket list. Yes, I do have a bucket list, and I'm currently checking things off. One of the things on my bucket list is to be an author. So in order to do that, I got to get my butt in gear and finish that book.
I think that's great.
Do it.
That's important. I made a list, I want to say last year, of like things because I'm 36 and like things I wanted to do before I hit 40. Because I think like a bucket list is very open-ended at times. Like I'm here for it, but it can be very open-ended. So I'm like, okay, by this point, this is when I would like these things to be done. So yeah, I have that list. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let us know when that book happens.
100%.
I will.
100%. Absolutely, Morty. Well, we thank you for being here today, and thank you all for watching and listening. Sound off in the comments. Like, are there any questions that you have for Morty? Make sure you follow him on social media, because there may very well be a video already where he has answered said question. But sound off in the comments. Let us know what you thought about the episode, who you want us to have on next. And thank you so much for listening. I'm Miles Weber.
I'm Heather Weber.
And this has been the Two Tired Parent Podcast. We'll see you later.
Bye.